Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. Today I'm going to show you how to properly tint your taillights using vinyl wrap. Now behind me I've got the Volkswagen Golf, and I just polished up the taillights. Both of them are scratch free. If you want to see how I did that, you guys can click on the annotation right here. You can find out how I did that, and then you'll be at the exact same spot they're at now. But for today, I'm going to show you how to tint them and darken them up. Now the taillights on the Golf right now are just clean, there's nothing on them, and we're going to darken them up to about this color using the vinyl wrap. Now I'll be cutting this appropriately to get a proper size for this application, but this is how you would buy them. It comes in a large sheet like this. You can choose whatever size you want to buy when you buy it from the manufacturer. But I've got a big sheet that's 2 feet across, and this will get done almost any car. So it doesn't matter if your headlights are very long, wide, it doesn't matter. One of these rolls will work for your car. So before we cut to size the vinyl that we need for this taillight, we're gonna first get a rough idea as to how big we need it to be for us to work. So for this taillight, you wanna try and find the longest distance between two ends and find out what length that is. So for the Golf, it's about 18 inches. But you're not gonna want a piece that's 18 inches long. You're gonna want something that's a little bit bigger so we have a little bit of overhang on each side so we can cut it to the appropriate size afterwards. So we're gonna need something that's bigger than 18 inches. We're gonna need something that's bigger than 18 by 9. So something that's like, say, 20 by 10, that will work perfect for us. So the vinyl wrap that we have right here is 24 inches in length. So this is 2 feet exactly. And because we need something that's about 20 inches long, I'm just gonna use the entire piece here for the width. And I'm gonna be cutting it at the 10-inch mark over here for the height. Now that we cut our piece, you can see that it's a little bit bigger than our taillight on every corner. Now this piece is gonna be perfect for our application. So before we actually start vinyl wrapping this, I'm first gonna clean off the headlight and remove any imperfections. So I've got a microfiber towel and some isopropyl alcohol. I'm gonna rub this entire area down, including the paintwork that's around the taillight. This is gonna remove any wax, any dirt, any grease that's on the headlight, and it's gonna make it so our vinyl wrap will adhere properly. To make sure that the wrap is going to adhere to the sides of the taillight, I like grabbing the microfiber towel and putting a vinyl wrap card inside of it. Put some IPA on there on both ends, and then shove it in between the panel. Like that, and it'll clean up the sides of everything. You can, no, it's coming out really gross. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick this up, but I've got a nice dirt line across the top. Do that for the entire taillight, and then we'll be ready for our next step. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I already went ahead twice and tried to tint the taillights on this thing, but the wrap that I was using was a little bit too cold, so when I tried to peel it back, because I had to readjust it, it tore on me both times. So I'm gonna be going at this one more time, and I've got some more wrap. So if you guys are planning on doing this project, buy more wrap than what you need, because if you guys get in a situation where, say you have one done, and the second side you butcher, you're gonna have one off taillight that's gonna say, one be red, and the other one's gonna be black. So yeah, let's get right into it. All right, so the way that I'm gonna get this tinted is I'm gonna first peel off the backing on here so it'll reveal the sticky side of the wrap. I'm gonna take the whole thing off, but I'm not gonna apply it onto the car yet. So once I take it off, like that, I'm gonna grab the heat gun, heat up the entire thing, and then stretch it over. Put some more heat down the bottom. Yeah, okay. More heat on the top, in the middle. Up in the middle. So now that it's basically on there, rough, we're gonna then go ahead and apply some pressure on here and remove all the crinkles that are still in the wrap. So I laid the wrap over the entire taillight, and I know that there's a lot of crinkles on it, but we're gonna take care of that. After that, you're gonna wanna lift up half of the taillight, and then you're gonna wanna let that part lay down perfectly. So you're gonna need a heat gun to get rid of any wrinkles, and you're then gonna need to push down the wrap a little bit at a time so that the entire thing is laid down perfectly. If there's any wrinkles that are in the wrap when you lay it down, you can simply get the vinyl wrap, peel it back, use a little bit of heat in the gun, and it'll repair all of that area. Keep repeating that exact same procedure until half of the taillight is perfectly laid down. So after you got like this half of the side down and without any crinkles or anything, you can then move on to the other side. So see that this now looks pretty bad? Once we peel this entire side here back, we can apply some heat into it, get rid of all these little crinkles down here, and make sure that the vinyl wrap will actually adhere to the taillight instead of like folding onto itself. So heat is going to be your best friend when you're doing this to make sure that the vinyl wrap doesn't tear on itself. If it's too cold and you try to peel it or even lay it down, you might tear it and you might have to start all the way back in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, I did this twice when I tried tinting this taillight, and I learned after the first 2 attempts what to do and what not to do. So when you're peeling the vinyl wrap back, use heat on the wrap to make sure that it won't rip and tear on you. Once you peel the wrap halfway, you should notice that the wrap looks pretty bad. Now to get it back to new and you get it ready so that we can lay it back down, get your heat gun and put a little bit of heat into it so that all the creases and everything even out, flatten out, and then we can get ready so we can put it back down. Once you've got it peeled back, use some heat to then later put it down. You're going to want to push your way a little bit at a time and work your way from the top to the bottom and push the entire wrap over the taillight. If you have an extra set of hands to help you do this, it's going to be a lot easier than if you're just trying to do this yourself. I found that if you have someone there to pull on the wrap and make it tight, you can maneuver the wrap in any way you want and you can make sure that you don't get any bubbles in the vinyl. The vinyl wrap that we're using right here is different from vinyl wrap that you would use to, say, wrap a vehicle, because on that wrap, the actual makeup of it is different because it's going to actually allow air to evacuate from it if you have any air pockets. That's different from this because if you have any air pockets in here, they're not going to be able to evacuate unless you peel the wrap back, put some heat into it, and then lay it back down. You're going to have to do that exact same thing if you have any bubbles or wrinkles in the wrap, because otherwise it's going to be left like that and there's going to be nothing you can do about it unless you redo it. I then continued to wrap the entire taillight until I got to the other end where there was no bubbles or wrinkles between the wrap and the taillight. So if you can see now that the taillight is nicely wrapped, including little parts on the bumper, we now have to trim this to the appropriate size because we don't need all this tint and everything on the trunk, on the bumper, and even on the fender down here. So what we're first gonna do is cut out a little bit around the farthest available spot. So we can basically get the vinyl wrap and wrap it around the taillight. So we're not gonna cut it right up to the taillight. If you can, try and give yourself a little bit of space. So I'm gonna try and bring it as close as I can to the bumper or the trunk without actually touching the trunk. Going to give me the most amount of wrap to work with afterwards. So it doesn't really matter where you start. As long as you get the entire thing cut out, you're going to be laughing. And then if you want, you can section it off. So if you have a little area cut out, you can then cut off and lift that entire section from start. So there you go. And you can peel that off. Now with this out of the way, you can then grab your heat gun and your squeegee applicator and get the taillight tint to wrap on the sides of the taillight just so that the wrap stays on there and adheres very nicely. See how these edges are nice and down? That is perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. And once you do this to one side, you can then continue to do this entire process to the entire perimeter of the taillight. Now just to clean up this little area, you then grab a microfiber towel with some spray wax and clean up the surrounding paint and the vinyl wrap now that we got our fingerprints basically all over this. Now before you go ahead and tint the other side of the car, you want to make sure that your taillights can still be seen through the wrap. Because if your taillights, if the actual bulbs inside of them are not bright enough, when you drive your car during the daytime and you press the brake pedal, cars behind you might not see you. But luckily for us, because we've got pretty good bulbs inside of here, when we press the brake pedal, they see through. We can see that we've got the tinted one here on the left, and on the driver's side, it's normal. And the clarity is still very good on both ends. You can see on the driver's side that the brake light still works and is still very clear and visible behind the car. Now that's very important for other drivers because if you can't see it, some other driver that can't see your taillights might rear end you when you're driving. This is very important during the daytime. I've seen some people that have used some aerosol spray paints to paint and darken the taillights on their car, And because they went too dark during the daytime, you cannot see their taillights at all. It's very important that it's still visible and still clear at this point. Now, once you see this and you can still see the bulb, you can then proceed to the next one. Otherwise, we're gonna have to undo that and take it off, just so that we don't cause an accident. And bam! Done on both sides. If you guys repeat this process to both taillights, you're gonna have flawless looking taillights, guaranteed. Now, something to note is that you guys should definitely check with your state laws to see if you can tint your taillights, because you might get pulled over by a police officer and you might get written a notice, a warning, or even a ticket that you can't have tinted taillights on the car. Now, if you're in that situation, all you have to do to go back to stock is get that heat gun, find a corner, peel the whole thing back, and you're left with the exact same taillight you had before we did all this stuff to it. But if you like this look, you can keep it on, and you guys are gonna be good to go on the road. If you guys have any questions regarding the video, throw them down in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to help. Again, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Now, if there's any creases or wrinkles, you can peel back. Oh, shit.